Last video I talked about how to be heard, how to make people listen to you and engage with your presentation more using your body language. When it comes to all sorts of the public speeches, project pitches, presentations, you need to make people listen to you to tell your story, especially if you don't have loyal audience there. You gotta attract people's attention and keep as long as you can while you need to deliver your whole statement. Today we're gonna talk about what techniques you can use to make your presentation more interesting, dynamic, and how to attract and hold your audience attention. First, use the hook or opener. Emotional, sensitive, negative or positive words in a headline as a hook before your presentation will make your audience be touched emotionally. We are emotional creatures, and the more rational and dry your presentation will be, the less interest you get. It can be shocking statistics, research, some shocking headlines that can make people move to feel, not only to think. It should be concise, it can be sharp, it should be related to your audience type. If you know pain and concerns of your audience, beliefs and desires, values, your audience will be listening to this presentation subconsciously. We're going to talk about this later in the end of our list. Second, answering the question, what? What are you going to give people? The hook and opener is simply an overview of what are you going to give people, what kind of benefit you're going to give people to make them better or feel better. They're interested in what you're gonna do for them. If they're not loyal fans, they're not interested in discovering your personality without knowing what kind of things you're going to give them to make them more happy, more successful, have less pain, to give them cure, to give them the answer they're looking for. They can be interested in anything that can relate to them. Third, answering the question, why? Answering this question is showing the authority and credibility. Reality is based on subjective experiences. You can build the reality of your audience by simply talking about your successful experiences. If you have some achievements and awards related to this topic, it should be mentioned. Not because you're a braggy person, but just because your audience needs to know more about your personality, to listen to your story, to listen to your whole presentation and understand why you are the correct, the best person to talk about it. It can be good work in a successful company or successful project. It can be additional qualifications, anything that can be related to this topic and you're proud of. I can give you this simple example from film industry. Every time when the actors need to present themselves in intro video, and it's usually under 1 minute, they start to talk about their most recognized work, most recognized achievements, successful roles, successful projects. It might seem that it's kind of selling yourself, but on the other hand, it's respecting the time of recipient, respecting the time of the company that are auditioning you, and telling about only things that related to this project, skills, achievements, roles, and only things that important about you to hear, things that can make you special. Next thing is non-verbal communication. If you have some doubts that it's a very important part of public speaking, you can go to my previous video and watch the introduction to body language. Body language, clothes, and even accessories can make the right perception about you. I know how it sounds in a free modern world, and I'm the person who doesn't like dress codes for conferences, for work, but perception creates reality. If you dressed properly for the event, people will perceive you as a serious person in their industry. And also it shows respect to people, to the event, following their rules, and your openness to be flexible. Storytelling. People can be compassionate to a personal experience. People like the stories that change their lives. People like to hear the insights from the experiences that can help them to change or to go through their own experiences. Honesty and openness can help to build the connection with your audience, also to make them understand you better, and moreover to listen to you with more emotional involvement and personal interest. It's very useful skill for any kind of social interactions. It's definitely worth to having it and improving it. Next technique, ask interesting questions. Be curious about what your audience is and what it has in mind. Be open and attentive, empathetic, and curious about all the details. You might have learned some interesting facts, curious, unusual facts about the place, new city, this conference hall, anything that can be new for you, and you can ask genuine questions from the locals, from your audience about this place, about this country, about culture, about city. Be open to talk to your audience and asking their questions that nobody has before. Try to put more efforts into discovering their deeper interests and passions. Because if people will see your genuine interest in discovering them, their personality, understanding them, they will be more close to your speech, to your personality, and they will be more attached to you. Learn more about your audience and the place before you go to the conference or do your presentation. Ask rhetorical questions, open questions, deep questions, and make interesting conclusions and challenge your audience mind. Use humor. It can be amusing headlines, anecdotes, funny situations, facts. Humor always helps to make people more relaxed and reduce this overall pressure of the event. It's also build some connection to make people understand you faster, to build this connection faster. But be careful with using words, with what kind of type of humor you're going to use, because it might be offensive for different culture people, it might be offensive for different industry people, just for people who don't understand your particular personal humor. So choose your words carefully, and if you know your audience, you can use specific humor for this specific industry. The aim is not to be a comedian, but to accommodate your audience, to connect with them faster, and to warm up your audience. Next one is props and non-verbal moderation. I put it in a certain separated element because it's important to moderate all your speech, all your presentation with pauses, eye contact, your movement, and voice. You can also use props to highlight something that you need to tell, to help your audience to understand the complex subject, the complex information with illustration, with some boards, with real subjects that you can show. Also, pauses is a very effective tool to stress, to highlight the important word or sentence or meaning. Also, it creates tension, brings additional curiosity, it brings additional energy to this subject, to this sentence. Use your eye contact and voice to highlight most important elements of your presentation. Move the energy of your audience to the most important part of the presentation, because audience cannot be attentive fully the whole time. You need to moderate your audience attention. You need to control it. You need to manipulate this attention in a good way to let them understand certain very important points, and then between those very important points you can be more relaxed, because audience will structure all your presentation correctly in their minds. Use your energy with using voice modulation, eye contact, and movement of your body. Use this energy. If you want to highlight something to make them pay attention on this particular point, put your energy into that. Next one is open loop or mystery. There's a well-known technique of starting to tell the story or mentioning something in the beginning of the presentation and then stopping it and saying that I will finish the story, I will explain this to you in the end of my presentation. And it can be anything, your personal story, the story of the character, the story of your teacher that you mentioned that made a lot of good stuff for your life and career. Also, it can be a real subject that might seem irrelevant for the topic, but it will definitely claim the audience attention to this real subject. If you put something on the stage with no explanation, what is this, and it's not relevant for your presentation, people will be interested why this subject is on the stage, why he mentioned this and didn't say why. People are curious creatures as well, and people would like to have some closure, so people tend to wait and be curious until you're gonna tell them the end of the story. But be careful with curiosity and dissatisfaction. You must tell the end of the story in the end of your presentation. The mystery must be unhinged, because this is like the law in the theater. If you see the rifle on the wall in the first scene, it must fire in the end of the scene or in the end of the performance. Remember about that. Don't make them dissatisfied with not telling the end of the story. But also you can keep the attention and keep this mystery going if you are planning to have another workshop or another presentation tomorrow, for example. So it's kind of technique to keep this interest. It's like reading the book, watching the film, watching the performance. People need to understand what's going to happen in the end. The last thing, and not the least, I promised to tell you about this in the end of my video. Audience type. Do some research during your preparation about your audience. It means that you must know overall socio-demographic picture about people who are going to give their time to you. It can be gender, profession, place, country, culture, hobbies, passions, interests, anything that can be interesting to learn about people, anything that can build this persona. Cultures are different and very important, and you cannot be indifferent to this. It's essential to understand people from this perspective because it can be the anchor for their persona, and their persona is the key for your presentation to build the connection with them. In this matter, I recommend to read the book The Culture Map. This book will give you the understanding about differences between cultures and how to connect, how to understand different people better. And this is all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and talk to you next time.